Resident Evil 7 marked another notable turning point in the long history of the Resident Evil franchise. A move where its developers decided to scale back on AI partners and obscure government agencies and weird global conspiracies, and get right back to basics with lots of scares, a vulnerable protagonist, and a remote location. Many fans, myself included, felt like this was the exact right direction for the series. Over the course of 20 years, the story had just gotten a little bit confusing. Here are 8 times Resident Evil was just a little bit too Resident Evil. The scene a lot of fans remember as a particularly defining moment for Resident Evil, taking not so much a walk but a running leap into the ridiculous, was when Chris Redfield tried and succeeded in punching a giant boulder into submission in the middle of an active volcano in Resident Evil 5. Sure, weirder things have happened in the series, but those things were usually carried out by someone infected by one of the million strains of zombie virus. Whereas Chris is just a really beefy human, who's actually really self-aware as to how silly this whole scenario is just moments later.
You're going to judge us? You get all your ideas from comic book villains?
As bizarre and undeniably improbable as this scene is though, we kind of have it to thank for Resident Evil 7. Jun Takeuchi, executive producer of 7, who was also the producer of 5, says he remembers thinking that the fact they'd made Chris into a kind of superhero so successfully meant that the game was no longer really scary. Hence the decision to pull everything right back to basics for 7. Not so silly looking now, is it, this boulder punching? No, wait, no, it is.
I'm just giving you exactly what you gave me, Simmons.
Whatever Derek Simmons is being paid as head of security for the family, and whatever he was paid to ultimately be responsible for the destruction of Raccoon City, it definitely was not enough. All his plotting, his really long conversations on the top of moving trains, transforming into a sort of inside-out lion, getting run over by said train, transforming back into a human again, and then turning into a T-Rex made entirely out of bones, sinew and eyes while getting shot at by a helicopter. That goes beyond working overtime. But was that the end of him? Was it bollocks? You aren't a real Resident Evil villain until you die at least 20 times in a row, and at least one of those times has to involve falling dramatically off a cliff. Those are just the rules. But when you inevitably come back for one last mutated showdown, how do you top Giant Evil Dinosaur? Well, you don't, basically. But these guys all seem to love turning into insects for some reason. You'd almost feel sorry for Simmons, if it wasn't for that whole monumentally creepy Project Ada thing, of course. Seriously, dude, get a better hobby. Speaking of, in a world where there are apparently only 3 career paths, super spy, government agent, mad scientist, no one's job has been quite as all-consuming, and no one's plot has been quite so convoluted, as Ada Wong's. Secret agent surprisingly keen to introduce herself and blab her presumed alias to literally everyone she meets. It's just kind of a miracle that Ada is still alive at this point. Whether it's hunters stealing her shoes, or using live explosives as stylish eyewear, improbable things just seem to happen around Ada as standard. But to be fair, if not for her, quite a few series boss fights would not have gone down in our favour. The bending over backwards to work her into every single series plotline gets old very fast in Resident Evil 6. And the whole Project Ada thing just doesn't make any sense. But let's be honest, we'd all take Ada over Helena or Piers or Jake or even Sherry Birkin any day of the week. At least she's always been consistent with the one-liners.
That's a large thing you have there. But I don't like it when men play rough.
Honestly, the best way to figure out Ada's motives at any one time is to just assume she wants the exact opposite of whatever your current objective is. And she'll usually succeed too.
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
I mean, come on, the bitch in the red dress is just better than everyone else in this universe. Not bad for a character who started off life as a random researcher's password. So we all know Wesker is the king of impossible acts in the Resident Evil series. If he isn't refusing to die for the millionth time, or catching rockets with his bare hands and speaking in a weird fake English accent, he's flat out ignoring the laws of science by refusing to melt while taking a bath in molten lava, or just casually devolving into massive tentacles and shrapnel, as most Umbrella employees tend to do eventually. But Albert isn't the only Wesker to do really weird and confusing things in the dubious name of plot development. Alex Wesker was also part of an experiment by Umbrella to create an advanced race of human beings via the progenitor virus. Because reasons. After she decided to go rogue, also because reasons, she went to live on a private island, which, to be honest, I can definitely understand. Once she got very seriously ill, however, Alex decided that the smartest thing to do would be to transfer a digitized version of her consciousness into a living host. There is literally nothing these virus strains won't do in the name of plot development. And despite the best efforts of cuddly, beardy Viking Barry Burton, Alex is actually successful, transferring into the one character in Revelations 2 who managed to be creepier than she was. I suppose we shouldn't be all that surprised that mind transfers are indeed a thing in this universe. Not just because if you can transform into a dinosaur or a giant moth, then why the hell not? But also because replicating higher functioning minds played a big and very stupid part in Resident Evil Code Veronica. There are a lot of things questionable about that story. And creating cloned twins from an embalmed ancestor just because you want someone really smart in the family again is one of the more relatable threads. Alexia and Alfred, as the twins were named, went on to splice their father's genes with that of an ant, and put Alexia in cryogenic suspension for 15 years in a secret location in Antarctica. And again with the weird insect obsession. Although she doesn't explicitly use psychic powers in the game, the novelization does confirm that she has them, but they sure don't stop her from having a very, way too close relationship with her twin brother. Gross. Have you ever looked at a leech and thought to yourself, now that's aspirational? I'm gonna say maybe not, but Dr. James Marcus, one of the founders of Umbrella, kind of did. His backstory is he was very smart, wanted to reshape humanity, blah blah blah, all that usual stuff, genomes, eugenics, experimenting on employees, all that stuff. But when he was assassinated by Spencer's Umbrella security force, his dead body merged with that of his beloved Queen Leech, who absorbed his cells and therefore his memories. The Queen wanted to avenge its master's death, and so took on the form of his younger self and sung opera in order to remotely control other leeches who attack Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen throughout Resident Evil 0. I'll say that again. Opera singing, leeches, mind control. Okay, those events lead to the demise of Raccoon City and pretty much everything that follows in the Resident Evil series, so although you could question her methods, Queen Leech actually gets the job done, and some of those man-shaped leeches are the scariest enemies that you will encounter in the entire Resident Evil universe. But poor Queen Leech doesn't live to see the fall of Spencer, and I don't know how proud you should be that you got taken down by STARS team's most annoying member. For all this talk about Resident Evil jumping the shark, however, we're kind of forgetting the time that it actually jumped a shark. Well, you didn't exactly jump it, but you did fight it underwater for an improbably long time before stabbing it in the head and then performing a very graceful jump back into the water yourself. True to Resident Evil style though, the shark comes back from the dead for one last attack. But of course, not without sprouting extra tentacles and glowing weak spots as it chases you down an underground waterfall. Ugh, if only we had an exploding red barrel to shit. No, wait, never mind.
Dynamite!
Good job!
No! Don't go!
The thing is, let's be honest, Resident Evil has always been ridiculous. Did we somehow forget those live-action intros and endings where an actual real-life actor had to sit in some kind of shipping container pretending it was a helicopter while spreading his legs as far apart as humanly possible? Still though, it was a better performance than this.
Are you tired, Rebecca?
Sorry, Chris. I am.
You did a really good job. This case was just too weird. This case was...
Yes, Chris? What? What was it? All these years later, and we're still waiting to find out. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like or even give us a subscribe, and let us know what your favourite Resident Evil moments were in the comments, in before literally anything Barry Burton has ever said. And if you're still after more Resident Evil trivia, how about these videos, including one that features 14 things you didn't know about Resident Evil 7, even if you've played it. Bye!
There are only 3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.